you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. Before we start today, please take a moment to rate the podcast. Last I checked, Spotify has 45 reviews at 5 stars. I've just noticed if I say this in the beginning of the episode, I have a higher chance of reaching some of you to just take a moment and help us get found out so that our incredible guest speakers can get the attention they deserve. Thank you for those who have done that already. This episode is sponsored by Big Tech's Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear for responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. BTO values firearms training and supports firearms instructors nationwide. They even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors to ensure that when you as the consumer reach out, you are taken care of. Today we have Gabby Franco on the show. I feel like that name speaks for itself, but Gabby, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Well, thank you first for having me. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you. We met at the Air Girl and again this year. But for those people who don't know me, I was born and raised in Venezuela and immigrated to the United States in 2002. I've been shooting for most of my life, for about 30 years. And part of it included Olympic shooting, air pistol in particular, and sport pistol. Went to the Olympic Games in Sydney, went through a dozen of countries competing and winning medals. And now in the United States, USPSA, I do a lot of advocacy for the Second Amendment and also participated in the Top Shot and the History Channel show Top Shot in season 4 and season 5. And I'm an Army wife, I'm a mother, and so much more, but I think that should be enough.
That was lovely. I'm impressed that you were able to get that all compacted, and I'm sure we forgot something in there. Did you mention your degree in psychology? And
right, I graduated last year with my bachelor's in psychology, which I can talk more. I wouldn't say not necessarily more about that, but how I got there per se.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I got my bachelor's in psychology and now pursuing my master's. Well, I start in July for my master's in sports and performance psychology. So it's all on that realm of things. Yes.
Absolutely. You are incredibly multifaceted. I feel honored to have you on today and to get to kind of pick your brain on some topics that I heard you go into a little bit on the Green Ops podcast. I just kind of Googled your name and found a podcast episode to give me a little bit of head start for this episode. So I'm excited to get into that today. I would love for you to recount your story, if you don't mind, on how you got into shooting, because it is just such a cool story.
Yes, so I started shooting around when I was 11 years old or so, and my dad he was getting a concealed carry license back then, and, he wanted us to get into firearms, but I guess he didn't know how. And at the range, this is in Venezuela, and so when he went to the range to do his class so he could get a certificate and get a concealed carry license, he learned that there were an Olympic shooting team. And so he was like, what is this? Where are these guns? Because they look so weird. They look long and so different. And so that's when they told him that they had a junior Olympic shooting team. So he was like, I have 3 girls at home. So my older sister is the one who started first, and my younger sister and I started later. And I remember like the first year, my dad kept us doing dry firing. And I don't know, I mean, that probably, I didn't like it. I was like, I want to do what my older sister does.
Right.
I want to have fun. And I guess that part of wanting to do that and seeing that it was a lot more difficult than what it looked like is what made me it made me hooked to the sport. It was just like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. It was always a challenge. So that's how I started it, and it just took off. I was very dedicated to the sport, to the discipline, and I think as soon as I got a taste of winning, and my first win was not even a gold medal. My first win was a bronze medal, and I'll never forget. It was my first win, and
Of
I,
course.
proud of it as if it was a gold medal. But that,
Yes.
but that first national match is what got the attention of the Venezuelan Shooting Federation. Like, look at this young girl. I was, I think, 16 or 15 back then when I won the medal at national level. And they gave me the opportunity to be part of the national team and gave me a chance to travel for the first time and represent the country. And I was 16 and it was in Peru. And I won my first international medal. It was a silver medal. And I think since then I was like, this is it. I mean, I can just go to school, study, then go to the range. And in a few months, I go to travel the world or travel the country. This is what I want to do. And that's what I did most of my teenage years. I didn't even go to my prom in high school. I miss a lot of things that most teenagers do. Like, I didn't do the PJ parties or drinking per se when I became a young adult, because I was so dedicated and I was so determined to do good in my sport. And looking back, I'm like, that was perfect. I mean, I was very thankful that I had that. My coaches and my parents, obviously, but sports psychologists who taught me to see the big picture and not be so fixated into the immediate and what's happening right now, or the urges that I had. Oh, I want to have fun with my friend. Okay, you can do that. You can do it that. But right now, what is the thing that you really, really want? And so through the shooting sports, I learned to, I guess, canalize not only my emotions, but my goals and my expectations. So yeah, that's how pretty much I started. And then since then, the Olympic Games to me was, I'm not gonna say it was a strike of luck, but I never imagined I could go to the Olympic Games, in the sense that I always thought the Olympic Games was for superhumans, super athletes. I trained easy 5-6 hours a day between range time and dry firing. I would say probably 4 to 5. I would have to put myself to count, but it was every day from Tuesday through Sunday. I was training, and I was training hard. But even in my mind, I imagine, I saw it so far. So when I won my medal at the Pan American Games in Canada in 1999 and earned my plaza, I was like, like a dream, not even a dream come true, because like I said, I saw it so far from me, but it was almost like I can do many things, and sometimes I don't even know it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
It's almost like, you don't really have to be fixated in a goal. You just have to have those eyes open and your mind open, because even if you have a goal, maybe something greater come. You see? So anyways, that's pretty much my upbringing and part of it. I mean, I can tell you stories upon stories about Olympic shooting and how not only shaped me as a shooter, when it comes to precision and focus and understanding techniques and all that stuff, but more important to me is how Olympic shooting, in all those years, we're talking about a 10-year gap between 11 to 21, pretty much when I retired. I mean, it's such an important such an important time in our lives. We're still developing not only who we are, but who we believe we are, which I think is more important. And so it shaped how I conduct my life. Most of the stuff and thinking wise, everything, I do it, believe it or not, through the shooting technique and stuff I've learned from such a young age.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. It's so inspiring to hear. And yeah, you're the first Olympian I've had on this podcast. It is so cool to hear your stories. I mean, yes, as someone who sees what you go through just from the viewer standpoint, and just as an observer towards the Olympic sports in general, I have so much respect, and I just can't imagine, and I'm sure really we can only imagine to a certain extent the work that goes into it. So getting a little slice of that today is so interesting. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. I would love to delve into the aspect of sports psychology and how that plays into your life now as a USPSA shooter, and why you are headed towards your very own master's in sports and performance psych, if you don't mind.
Well, this is interesting because when I started let me start from this. I started my bachelor's in marketing.
Really?
Then,
okay.
Yes, I'm an instructor. I'm somewhat, a business person, if you will. And so I thought, okay, I want to start marketing and all that stuff. And then I thought, okay, to market, one of the very important thing is that the product, if the product is good, and okay, let's start this way. If the product is good, the marketing is not necessarily easier, but it's almost like the product sells it by itself, right? What you do is just the marketing, you just make it, reach more, but the product itself can just, move faster, right? And then after I got one class, I have to take one class in psychology. And then I thought, okay, this is it. If I am, and quote unquote, the product as a firearms instructor, as a business person, or whatever I'm offering, why not finding ways to bettering myself? And I've always had that approach. Like I said, everything like from the shooting sports. In the shooting sports, you can talk about shooting and the technique, but ultimately is you have to improve yourself first so you can become that great athlete you want to be. Whether, when I say improving yourself, is not only physically, mentally, and health wise, in all senses. So anyway, I started my bachelor's in psychology. And at first I was like, I didn't know where I wanted to go. And the first thought I had was sports psychology, because that's the background I've had with my sport. I worked with I had sports psychologists who worked with me throughout my career as an Olympic shooter. I competed in world championships and other different international championships, including the Olympic Games, that require that strength. And I have to say, not all the time it panned out. Like, not all the times it worked well for me. Sometimes my nerves and my mind just became the enemy that sometimes it is. But many times I was able to, through their guidance, overcome those challenges. And then as I'm doing my bachelor's, I'm thinking I like science. I like math. I was thinking maybe I do cognitive science, cognitive psychology. I'm fascinated by the mind. I'm fascinated by the way we think, how can we, and just the idea that we could even, AI, I'm thinking, well, maybe I could be one of those scientists who help AI think the right way. You know what I mean? Don't get too bad. But I always went back to my roots, and my roots were and this is what solidified my idea on getting my sports psychology degree right now, or pursuing my master's, and who knows, probably my PhD in the future. I don't know yet, possibly, but is that and if we see psychology field in a macro level, I see it as there's two type of psychologists. Some psychologists, some group of psychologists who pull people from the darkness, okay, and they do an amazing job. And there's another type of psychologists, which I think there are not many, which are the ones who push people to greatness. And I find myself that I am more like that person. Well, I am good at listening to people and talk to them about, hey, help them overcome, I think, because, I've done that with friends and stuff, but I always go back to less, I see myself in a better position to help people go up to their greatness. Like, I love seeing people I have helped achieve their goals, and it brings me joy. It really brings me joy. I don't know, I just enjoy that. And so, thinking in that sense, I thought, okay, this is something I can do. And I have already my idea of what I want to do with it, which right now is an idea, and maybe when I finish, the idea could turn into something different or not. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, that's what it brought me to sport and performance psychology. I think especially in the shooting sports, I wouldn't say necessarily shooting sports, shooting in general. Okay. I'm talking
Okay.
about shooting as in helping people in the military, helping people in law enforcement, how to overcome a lot of challenges and understanding what those challenges are. And even though I don't have a background in, and I think this is the part that makes me different than most instructors, is that even though I don't have the law enforcement or military background, I had the blessing to have a coach with me every day for 10 years in a sport where, as a shooter in Olympic shooting air pistol, I didn't move, the target didn't move, and 90% of the work was mental. So that alone helped me for so many years see so many different perspectives, that so many different thoughts, so many different things, so many different issues. Not that I have heard everything, of course, because we are all a different world. We're all different. We're individuals with different backgrounds, experiences, dreams, and challenges. But it puts me in a position to help better because of the background and so many years of experience, not necessarily as a coaching, but for being coached, which I think it's extremely valuable. And so I thought, after a lot of thinking of what should I do, I thought sport and performance psychology would be that tool that would help me. And like I said, not only helping athletes, but I want to move it forward to law enforcement and such.
Absolutely. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to see what you do with your degree and the ideas that will come up as you pursue this. How incredible. Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. I have so many directions I want to go in. Would
Sure.
you mind giving us a kind of a glimpse of how this applies to law enforcement with
Yeah.
shooting? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So sports and performance psychology, basically what we or the idea is how you can overcome, your mental challenges. Okay.
Hmm.
Understanding what are those challenges and how to give the athlete the tools to move forward, right? And so knowing that shooting in general is it's mostly mental, often, you just talk to people and tell them to calm down, or help them calm their nerves and all that stuff, and boom, they started shooting better, right? And so to me, that is just a little band-aid, believe it or not. That because what happens is that most of the time, or to give you another example, some people say, they are flinching, for example, and they put the coin on top of the front sight, and the shooter learns to press the trigger. Oh, this is how I need to press the trigger. And so they learn how to do it with the coin, but more often than not, they go back to the flinching. And the reason is that the source of the issue was not fixed. Okay, what it was fixed, what it was taught is how to do it. But if you don't fix the internal issues, it's difficult to get better. Okay, so sport performance psychology also talks about anxiety. So how to deal with anxiety in moments, in moments that you need to act, that you need to perform. That's why it's performance also. So even though the degrees is sports and performance psychology, is something that it can be applied to many other things. And so for law enforcement, how to teach them how to, and again, I'm going to start my master's in July. So take this information and taking you as somebody who knows about the degree, yet I don't have yet the official tools to speak with it more eloquently. But basically, that is my goal. And that's why I think it has a lot of application. In fact, in military nowadays, in the military, with special forces, sports psychologists works with them too, because that has a lot to do with performance, how to help the athletes perform. To give an example, and this is an example from personal experience. So I had one of the psychologists who worked with me to the Olympic Games. There was one exercise. I mean, we did a lot of different mental, if you will, exercises, right? But there was one that I really remember, and it kind of, in a way, shocked me. He laid us down, we were laying down on the floor, and another teammate was checking our heart rate. Okay. And so we were taught he was telling us something like a story or something, and imagine that it was us who were in that story. And the idea was to making us increase our heart rate. So we're supposed to increase our heart rate. And as soon as we got to that point, the heart rate that he wanted us to get, we had to use the breathing and mental strategies that he taught us to calm ourselves down, bring our heart rate down in a certain amount of time. And so it's right. And so when you're talking about, it's not just how to calm yourself. Like, some people see me and I go to match. Oh, you look so calm. You look so relaxed. It's not like probably my shirt says calm mind. I have a calm mind, not because my mind is calm all the time, but it's because I've learned to learn about me and know me. And even when I lose myself, because we all have those times, being able to catch myself on time. Okay. Because we all have the times when you get super sad or you get super anxious, but you have to know, and you have to have the mental strength to say, stop, and cut yourself in time and bring yourself back in line. And that takes effort a lot. It sometimes takes, I don't even know how to say it, but it's almost like, I call it, I don't BS myself, basically. But that takes time and effort, and obviously takes years of training. And like I said, I have been blessed. I had that training throughout my career as a shooter. And I learned this when I was doing my bachelor's in psychology, that many of the concepts I learned in psychology, I knew them. I just didn't know the concepts. It's like, oh, wow, I do this. I know what it is. I just didn't know it was called A or it was called B. And so this kind of the same thing I feel, obviously, hopefully with new techniques, because I don't expect to be patting myself in the back and say I know it all. And I expect that from 20-year difference since I went to the Olympics to today, new techniques and better ways to improve performance, obviously, I'm pretty sure have been developed. And so that is how I do believe sports and performance psychology helps not only as an athlete in sports, but in the law enforcement, in the military realm, and so many other areas.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I know I keep saying that, but truly, this is incredibly insightful. I love that you have a passion for facilitating people's minds, not only, the shooting technique itself, but how to prepare yourself mentally for something. And I truly haven't myself as a little C-class shoot over here. I haven't really taken the time to study this, and I haven't had anyone mentor me on this. So I'm curious, would you say that there is almost a golden time to start that journey into the mental preparedness side, or would you say that it's for everyone at any level?
I think it's for everyone forever. Okay. And I will tell you
Absolutely.
why. Even though you can say, I mean, how many times have you heard athletes, like Olympic athletes, getting into drugs? Have you heard people who are, supposed to be the gurus or whatever, or psychiatrists getting into, having challenges? It's because even though, like I'm saying, I was trained in sports and I was, when I was in my sport, let's say, I'm not going to put myself an example, but let's say a very high performing athlete, right? And they are very strong minded in that environment. But if they were not able to translate that particular skills and take it across their lives, it's very difficult for them to use it in other areas of their lives, even though it's very important. So to give you an example, some people talk a lot about mental toughness, and you think about what is mental toughness. And I think the confusion or the misconception is people think mental toughness just comes right away and comes when you need it. And I do believe it's something that you foster every day, every second. Every time you're driving and somebody cut you off, how do you react to that circumstance? That's your mental toughness. You cut yourself and then you want to throw the whole world. How do you use that? How is your behavior? How do your behavior, your conduct, is what determines your mental toughness overall in general, especially in toughest time. Because if we were, if we were ready for that tough moment, for that difficult, very challenging situation, nobody would have had challenging situations. Everything would have been easy. And in life, it's not that way. Life, God throw us challenges in ways that probably we don't even know if we're going to be able to overcome. And we do. We just need to use those tools and techniques that we had in other areas. So to your question, of course, it's for everybody, for any age and forever. Okay. Because again,
Absolutely.
every circumstance, every challenge, every match, think of it. If we think about a match, right, it's different. Every self-defense situation is going to be different. So you have to have the strength and to think about mental toughness or think about mental training as every time. And I know it may sound like, oh my God, that's kind of boring or difficult. I'm going to be just thinking of my mental toughness every second of my life. But I do believe is the same thing when you decide to have a health, take care of your health. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes your lifestyle. And I think in the long run, it pays off, because when those very difficult challenges come, that is what it counts. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I love how you explained that. So I'm hearing it's for any type of shooter, competitive, concealed carry, someone who's in law enforcement, all the way up to the Olympic level, but also every aspect of life, in our
Yes.
interpersonal struggles and everything. So, no, this is lovely. Um, kind of bringing it back to shooting, not that I don't want to go into those other areas, but
Right.
because I am curious, do you have kind of a mental process when you show up to a match? Because right now, correct me if I'm wrong, USPSA is your main gig, correct? You
Yes.
shoot for Team Walther and
Right.
you travel and shoot. So is there a system that you religiously practice?
Um, I do, well, yes. So the first thing I do is meditation. I think meditation is
Ooh.
a very important thing to do. In fact, when I was doing my research through different courses in psychology, one course was about mental illness, schizophrenia and all the mental illness, and also was the other class, which I took them together, was drugs, about all the drugs, in not only drugs as we think of them, but also as medication. Okay, medications that are used for this mental illness and stuff. So, one of the things that came every time I was looking and researching, obviously there are many techniques and everything, but it was almost everything I kept leaning to meditation. Meditation also helps you uh, improves the structure in your brain through gray matter, and also is part of this help you visualize, which is part of the process that helps with the structure of the brain. So meditation, when I meditate in the mornings before I go to the match, it's just put my mind in focus on what is my goal in the match. I know we go to the match like a local match is just to have fun, and that's great, right? But I think we have a lot more fun when we're doing great and when we're doing good. I have never heard anybody who was doing crappy and not doing good at all and having a great time.
Right.
So
This is it. Yeah.
right?
Right.
And we know it. I mean, who
Right.
are we kidding?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So meditating, I have a few self-guided meditations, guided meditations. I'm sorry, guided meditation that I listen to that help me stay in focus. Like what I want to listen to, what do I want to see, what do I want to focus, and that has helped me a lot. Now, when I am at the match, right, one thing I do, whatever I did in one stage, whether it was good or was bad, is gone. Then I focus on the next one. So that's very important for me, making sure I stay in focus on the task I'm about to do or am I doing. I do my breathing techniques before I get to start the stage. I do 2 or 3 deep breath, and I think that's breathing, like deep breathing, especially before the beep. I think it's important because oxygenates your brain, your eyes, brings more oxygen, and it makes you alert. Other things I do, even when I feel, not very often, but sometimes I do feel my heart rate goes higher than normal. And it's not like I don't get a higher heart rate. Okay. And I think that's important to talk, and probably, also know about this, is that we confuse that with, it's not confusing. Let me take that back. We think about nervousness in a very negative way. And I talk about that in my last video on my YouTube channel about how to calm your nervousness, is that most people think of it in a very negative way. It's like, oh, my heart rate is, my heart is going pumping hard. It means I'm nervous. And particularly in our sport, that's the way you want to be, because you're about to run. So you want to be pumped. It's like, can you imagine a sprinter being passive? No, right? You want to have that energy. You have that shot of adrenaline. You're like, I'm ready to go. And so having that right mentality, understanding that this is actually, I'm good, I'm fine. And so keeping myself in perspective, like, if my heart rate is going a little bit higher than normal, I need to identify why. There's always a why. Your heart rate doesn't go up just out of the blue. Okay, unless it's something wrong with your heart. Okay.
Right. Yes. Right.
Right. So it is what you saw a target that you're not comfortable with. There's a long target with no shoot, or with a partial target. There's a swinger. There's a very something crazy that sometimes they pull off on these matches that you have never seen, like double swinger with a no shoot in the middle. And you're like, I've never done that. I don't know how I'm going to accomplish it. But identify what is the source of it is extremely important, because then you can say, okay, well, it's what it is. Am I going to do it? I'm going to quit. Right. And if I'm going to quit, that's easy. Done deal. I don't have to deal with my heart rate going high. But if I'm going to do it, which is more what we all do when we're ready to go in the match, you just say, that's fine. Just deal with it. You know what I mean? Or focus. Generally speaking, what I do is just telling myself what I need to focus on.
Are you searching for a brand you can trust when it comes to shooting and gun care products? Look no further than Birchwood Casey. Since 1948, serious shooters, avid collectors, and professional gunsmiths have relied on Birchwood Casey. They've been in the game for over 70 years, providing us with products that have stood the test of time. From their legendary True Oil gunstock finish to the dependable Perma Blue, Birchwood Casey's commitment to quality is unmatched. Birchwood Casey has also revolutionized the way we train and improve our shooting skills with their innovative Shoot and See targets. These targets let you see your shots instantly, making it easier than ever to track your progress and become a better marksman. Head over to birchwoodcasey.com today and discover the products that have earned the trust of shooters worldwide. Use code SHESHIELD to save and to support the podcast. That's SHESHIELD at checkout. Absolutely. Yeah, I thank you for sharing your mental process, and I will link that YouTube video in the show notes, which are the notes below the podcast. So if you're listening and you're just like, okay, I want to go watch that video right now, it is linked for your convenience. Yeah, thank you for giving us kind of a peek into what you do. I am a very anxious person, and I feel silly even saying that because I feel like it's pretty obvious. But I was absolutely diagnosed by, psychiatrist with a GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, especially when I was pre-med and I was preparing to take my MCAT, which is the kind of entry exam for medical school. I ended up doing fine, ended up getting into medical school, ended up going to medical school before I dropped out into my master's. But during that time, my anxiety was so bad. And something I feel like the pre-med advisors and the professors that worked with us at such a high level. So for example, my biochem honors professor who I worked with in a lab for 3 years, things that I feel like they could have helped us a little bit more with was kind of the mentality around exam taking and exam preparation, and like why it was so important to prepare early on, and the importance of visualizing yourself taking an exam and thinking like an exam taker and not just like someone reading the literature, that they assigned. Like think like this is going to be on an exam. And I've learned that I have those same tendencies now translated to my USPSA journey. The second I know it's a classifier, I almost wish they wouldn't tell me. I freak out. And my heart rate increases too much, right? It's above the stress component of competition. And so far, the thing that has helped me the most is to bring myself down, relax my body from like the top of my head to my toes, and then to think about the process and not the outcome, because I'm so outcome focused. But sometimes I feel like there's something more I could do because I still black out during classifiers. I'm more relaxed now, and maybe that's just something I need to give myself time for. Um, and maybe this isn't even something, you have feedback for today. Maybe we come
Right.
back after you finish your master's and we get into this
Or even
sometime
before or
later.
now. What I would tell
Right.
you, like what I would say
Please.
right now, and perhaps the best example, I'm going to tell you with a story. I'm ready
Please.
to go to the Pan American Games, okay? And in Venezuela was a whole drama because, politics exists everywhere. In sports, especially in sports, there's a lot of politics. And I earned my spot to go to the to the Pan American Games as a female shooter. There were only 2 spots for shooting, one female, one
Wow.
male. So again, I got my spot for the female shooter. Well, there was a father that thought that his son should go to the Pan American Games and had more quote unquote merits than me to go. Mind it, there's another male spot, but the male spot was taken already. So what they did, they fought for my spot. So they argued that instead of taking one male and one female, they should take 2 male shooters to the Pan American Games. I mean, thankfully for me, I had so much support from all the men in the federation, in my shooting association. I mean, they were like, no, she earned her spot. So long story short, this man who was a lawyer, he even sued the shooting federation. It was a whole ordeal. I am at the airport, in the airplane, and like having that happiness and relief that I'm there, I'm gonna go, and at the same time a panic attack, like, all the thoughts. It was like, what about if they're right? What about if I just messed up and I turned to being, I mean, you can't even imagine the number of thoughts I had. And my coach, so I had my coach from my city, and I have a national shooting coach. And so the one who was with me was Otar. He was from the Republic of Georgia. And he's the one who coached me as part of the Venezuelan shooting team. And he saw me, so concerned and all that. And what I remember, this is so long ago, over 20 years ago. But what I remember our conversation is that I told him, I voiced my concerns. Like, what about if I fail so miserably and I'm going to go back home and everybody's going to be like, they were right. They should have taken the other shooter. They shouldn't have taken you. And then he looked at me and he said, so what? You're going to go back home and you're going to be you? You're not going to change. Your family's not going to change. They're going to love you the same. Your house is going to be the same. And what I'm saying is that he brought me back to reality, that it did not matter whether even if I won, it didn't matter. That was not going to change who I was as an individual, who my parents were, how my house was going to be. It would have probably changed my ego, but that's not the person, the skin and bone person would have not changed. And so what I'm trying to tell you with this is that when you feel that anxiety, when you go to when you're about to shoot a qualifier or whatever, tell yourself you do this because you love it. Like, the worst thing that could happen means that you're going to learn from it. Well, and make notes. What are you going to learn from that one? And if you do good, you're going to say, awesome. I'm ready to do to the other one. But take it as an experience, not as who you are. And this is something I don't know if I learned it from him or I read it in a book, but what we do, in shooting sports particularly, this is what we do, know who we are. If you don't do well in that classifier, that doesn't define who Sofia is. That doesn't define who I am. I mean, I can give you even more examples about real life examples, not only about me, but other experiences or other examples from other people way high up. But the sense is the same, is that you have to first find the source of it, right? Source of that issue and say, so what? So what? Who do I owe this? But to yourself. And what would you tell your best friend? Right? Because often we treat ourselves worse than we would treat others, or
Absolutely.
harsh in a very harsh way. So anyways, that's what I would tell you now when you go back, and hopefully you remember my voice and my words.
Yes.
And you'll be like, you know what? So be it. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Yes. I'll play this back to minute 40 and, 40 to 46, and I'll be sure to internalize it. No, for real though. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I will remember it. I know the thinking of the process and not the outcome, that little piece of advice that I actually got from Lena Michalik before this match was just like on repeat in my head. So like between those two, I'm basically gonna shoot like a GM. So thank you. I'm excited.
Good.
No, for sure. And also just remembering to have fun is something I have to do my whole life. Stressful things like that, building up to be a physician and all of that has always been, the stakes were so high. And it's like, if I didn't study well, I was like letting someone down, potentially like a bad decision for their life and livelihood and health. And it was like,
Right.
And now it's like, this competition's actually just, I'm spending my Saturday out with the squad that I love and I'm having fun. So yes, I love that, bring yourself back to reality advice. And I hope the listener is also seeing the value in that as well. So lovely. And I am so excited to just like thinking into the future, big picture, bringing you back after you finished your master's, or maybe you get to a place where you're ready to, there's a topic
Right.
that you're covering and you're just excited to go over it. If you ever wanted to come back on and dive into that,
Yeah, of
I'm so
course.
excited for that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
love to do that. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yes. Something else to kind of to slightly pivot. We talked about this before the episode started, which is your goal to bring a good resource in the firearms community to the Spanish-speaking community.
Yeah.
Would you mind explaining to the listeners what you've done so far and what your plans are, and kind of why you feel so passionately about that, if you don't mind?
Yes. So, as I said earlier, I was born and raised in Venezuela until I was 21 years old. So, literally half of my life, and I haven't said my age yet, but half of my life I've been
Okay.
was in Venezuela. And I went through the process of, I was able to, get into the shooting sports, see people go hunting, see people go around and having been able to conceal and carry guns, to restrictions that limited my ability as an athlete, that destroyed the industry particularly, and now people cannot own firearms. So now, and part of it is because of the taboo that there is around firearms in the Hispanic community. And I think that also is brought back in the United States. Many times I talk to Hispanics who are not in the firearms industry, and as soon as I tell them that I am, I'm a shooter, I compete, and I'm very candid about that. I don't hide it. I don't even try to be like, oh yeah, whispering. No, I just say it out loud. I don't care, because this is what I do and I love what I do, and I'm exercising my right to do it, my God-given right to do it.
Yes.
And so I often found like a funny pushback, not a pushback, but more like, oh, so are you gonna do this bad and bad thing? And that comes from that culture that if you have a firearm, it's because you are up to no good. And so that's something that I am determined and on changing, particularly here in the United States. I have connections throughout Latin America also. So I'm starting slowly but surely. I have my I open an Instagram account in Spanish. I have also a YouTube account in Spanish that I'm going to start filling up in the next few weeks with more content, and hopefully it would be good in good vast information that through the context I have in Latin America. So I have a lot of because of all these years traveling and competing with people from all over the world. I still have contact with many of them who still in the sport in one capacity or another, like whether as a coach or athlete, that they can also share that content. But obviously here in the United States is very, very important because as we all know, the opinion of people in such important matters is what can affect how we can continue exercising or having those rights protected. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, trying to educate them more about and show them that, I am petite. I am a petite. Well, you saw me. I'm little. If you don't know me, I'm a 5 feet 1 inch. Proud of that inch.
Yes.
And tiny. And and some people, especially in Latin America, they have this taboo that generally or only men use firearms, or women are not capable of using firearms. There's a lot of taboos. That's one of the many taboos in Latin America, and that, like I said, have been brought here because we all come with those thoughts and those in that culture.
Absolutely. Yes. And what you just shared is incredibly inspiring. Yes, I mean, yes, I will say though, you look incredibly strong. Like I don't want to diminish that part. But yes, I'm used to like towering over my friends. I'm 5'10", and sometimes people don't like expect how tall I'll be in real life. I don't know why I'm going down this rabbit hole, but I did have, this is kind of funny, a guest speaker the other day. He was like, "You look like you're probably petite, right? You're what, like 5'4", and I was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Man, I'm like." Oh, it was the episode with Todd Fox. I was like, "Oh no, dude, like I'm 5'10", 180, like I'm up there." And he was like, "Oh, okay." No, but of course that's not your focal point. Uh, yeah, so yes, and this is exciting. This episode right here will come out about 2 weeks from now. So I'm excited to see what will happen in that time with your content creation. I think it's incredible what you're doing. Gabby and I had a chance to talk before this episode. I let her know that my father is from Cuba and I grew up speaking Spanish. It was a little hard. My parents divorced, lived apart about the age of 8. So I did not have that constant influence of my father at home speaking to us in Spanish. I mean, I remember I would go up to him with like, my arm would be bleeding. And I'd be like, "Dad, like my arm's bleeding." And he'd be like, "En español." And I'd be like, "I don't know how to say that." And he'd be like, "All right, well," and in Spanish, he'd be like, "Well, figure it out. And then when you come back, I'll get you a bandage."
Right.
I'd be like, "I'm going to die." The dramatics of it. I have not done my due diligence to keep my Spanish side up. And one of my big dreams when I started She Shield, it was around the time when my Spanish was, I was a bit more fluent, was to provide this in Spanish as well. And I just never got to that. So I love that you, of all people, with your expertise and your reach, that you are starting on this mission. Not starting, I apologize. You are continuing on this mission. Would you mind, for the listeners, would you mind going through all of the resources you currently have? You have your YouTube channel, Instagram, blog. Would you kind of share a little bit more about that?
What do you mean, like?
Yeah. So as far as so do you provide the same content in English and then in Spanish, or are there certain topics that you only cover in one or the other? Just kind of a little bit more information about what you do.
So generally right now I'm doing the same. Whatever I share in English, I also share in Spanish. And in fact, more often, very often, I share them simultaneously. So people can see, okay, when they see it in English, because I have a lot of Hispanic people, or speaking people who tell me, hey, I don't understand. Can you put, subtitles on stuff? So it's easier that for me to do it all over in Spanish than trying to translate it and put the subtitles. And it's also a direct communication. They see that I'm speaking to them. We speak the same language. That they hear me, they feel me, like, okay, you are one of us. And so it's a better communication when I do that. So I've been doing that, but now I'm gonna start just filling up with more content that I already probably have in English. I just need to have it all in Spanish. So I'm gonna start working on those little, I would say, a little bit short, not 10-minute videos, but more like a 2-3 minute video, to the point, to educate more Hispanics about not only the firearms, not only about the shooting sports, but why we do it, why it's so important to have it, or practice it, or teaching your children about firearms. But obviously, what we're, you are also, we're also part of it, which is protecting our Second Amendment rights. So it is something that we have to do in every aspect we can. So yeah. So I'm gonna start doing that. So most likely, most people are gonna see more content that is not shared in English, is because I already have it in English.
Okay, no, that's great to know. And I appreciate you explaining that a bit more. So it's not just to help people get facilitated with firearms. It's to help everyone understand the why behind it all, and to also create this open stream of communication so that you can answer questions, and it's not just this thing that everyone is scared of because they don't understand it. That's
Right.
what I'm hearing.
Yes, yes. And again, the one thing that really helps me a lot is that I grew up in Venezuela. So I grew up in
Yes.
that culture. I traveled to Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador, many countries in Latin America. And I'm not going to say I know 100% everybody, but I know how we talk, per se. I know how we think. And that gives me that extra push, or that,
Perspective.
yes, that helps me how to communicate, how to reach them, and more effectively.
Absolutely. I love that. I recently spoke to a woman who does media news in France.
Hmm.
She's coming to SHOT Show and doing a segment on like the American influencer. And she called me and she wanted to do a segment. And I was like, oh my gosh. I told her, I was like, why? And she's like, oh, in France, this is just an example, of course, like is so interested in the culture here because it's so foreign, not just because of
Right.
geography, but because of the concepts and the idea of carrying something so lethal. So it was a way to kind of show the other side from afar, and that's when it occurred to me that how do people from other countries learn about our culture without coming here and experiencing it? And it's people like you that are going to make such a difference and that are making such a difference. And this is, I think, a perfect time to kind of dive into the Second Amendment. Um,
Yeah.
this is something that I remember when I started She Shield, I was like, I'm not going to bring politics into this podcast because I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. But as an individual in this community, have grown, I've I'm still learning, and I've come to learn the importance of advocating for 2A rights. So, uh, for maybe someone listening, and for me, what would you say the most, or what would you say a stepping stone is to getting on board with that protection of our 2A rights? Just kind of stepping in and being just making a difference in that space. I did not word that well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yes. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start with the big fallacy, okay?
Mhm.
And I think the big fallacy and because we are so bombarded with social media and the quote unquote influencers, right? That if you're not doing traveling and you're not fighting in Congress, and if you're not, you know, then you're not doing good enough. And I struggle with that in so many different reasons. Somebody sent me a video about or told me about a conference where somebody was telling people to stand up, like, oh, owns firearms? So it was like a Second Amendment event, and so everybody stood up, and then the persons kept saying, okay, has a concealed carry who has a concealed carry license keeps standing up. And so some people sat down, and so on and so forth. So the questions kept coming to the point that the person asked, who has testified, at the Capitol, state Capitol, and literally everybody sat down. And this individual, for what I was told, was like saying, oh, all of you kind of are hypocrites. You're not fighting hard enough. And I thought about it. I thought about that hardly, in the sense that, okay, let me think about this for a second. Is it means that if I don't go there, means I don't care about? What about all the children I go and teach them when I go to the range? Isn't that good enough? What about the people I have talked to? I'm talking about not me in personal, but other individuals like you or somebody who's listening right now, right? What about all the people that you have, the times that you have volunteered to or taught somebody about firearms for free just because you want them to change their perspective? Isn't that good enough? And I do believe it is. Okay. And I came also to that conclusion when I was asked to testify in Congress, and I was preparing everything. And then I was told that because of it's like a game of chess, pretty much, right? So they said, okay, the other side was bringing these witnesses, so the best thing was to bring another person instead of me. After I saw how legislators treated, the witnesses who were pro Second Amendment, I literally said, I don't want to testify. Like, I was deep inside, even though I said I didn't want to do it, I think deep inside, and like I'm saying, I don't BS myself. I'm very honest with myself. So I'm honest now.
Love
Deep
it.
inside, I know that it's more my insecurities to have the right words. Okay. English is my second language. And then I had to, struggle with that, saying, are you, am I a coward? That I don't care about the Second Amendment enough. And then I have to come and say, no, I do. I do. And what about all the people I reach all the time? What about all, every time there's something terrible happens, they call me. That's when they call me the news in Spanish. They contact me. They don't contact me to learn how to shoot, how to teach more children to be responsible, how to teach parents to teach their children. No, they call me when there's a tragedy and I have to put my face on the TV. Doesn't that count? It does. So it counts everything whenever you have a chance to teach your neighbors, to talk to your neighbors. Talk, not argue, not discussing, not creating bounds, creating breaches, not destroying them. That is how we collectively be part of the support of the Second Amendment. And the fewer and those who can do more, then go, great. Then we can find ways to support those. Could be financially, could be that maybe your work, maybe you have anxiety, right? And you don't want to speak in front of people. Does that mean that you don't care about the Second Amendment? Of course you do. But there are many other ways. So that would be my message for people. Don't feel like, oh, if I don't do A, like if I don't go all the way high up, means I shouldn't, I'm not doing enough. And what happened is that we how you say, paralysis by analysis. And then we don't do, and then that's when you don't do it enough what you could. So there are many different ways. I don't think there's just one way or one better way. I would say every little bit, every drop fills up the cup. So, and that's what we all need to do.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I've definitely gotten to a place where I've almost felt this sense of guilt that I haven't done more.
Mm-hmm.
I know like GOA reached out at one point, and I I looked into it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like why am I just now getting involved with them?" And like um not stimulating discussion on my podcast. I have this platform, I should be using it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I am an influencer. I'm not ashamed. I know there's a lot of negative connotation for the word influencer, but I do know that my page has encouraged people by comforting them on some level, whether it's like, oh, we have the same body shape and I didn't think that I could conceal carry. You conceal carry really well in this outfit, so I know I can now. Just like little things like that where I know I've empowered people, and I hope that that gives the listener some sort of comfort, but also just encouragement to continue doing what you're doing if that is what you are doing. For people that want to take that next step, though, like say I wanted to um, get involved more, where would you even go? I mean, that's something that's so foreign to me. How did you take your first steps in that involvement? If you don't mind me asking,
Yeah,
it's okay if
yeah,
you don't want to
sure.
go there.
Well,
Okay.
I was, obvious. I'm not gonna say obviously because.
Right.
Okay, let me just backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
People didn't know who I was until after Top Shot. Okay. And even before that, social media, even though it was a thing, but it was not like a huge thing. Mostly was Facebook. But since I can remember from the beginning, I kept talking about it. I reached out back at that time at the NRA, and I say, "Hey, listen, I'm very serious about protecting the Second Amendment," and that was the only organization I knew then, right? And I knew somebody in there, and that's when I became one of their commentators, NRA commentators. But I was actively, as I am, actively speaking about it. Right now it's very interesting because right now when we are and you have certain number of following, which was not back in the day. Back in the day you have to go after and you have to go and show who you were. Nowadays you have some followings and then companies come and reach you, which is great, right? But then that's the question, what about somebody who doesn't have lots of followings, right? How do you start, right? And I think starts with sharing your beliefs and in a manner that is respectful, even when involves people that you disagree with. Because I mean that's the way I conduct myself in general. So in general speaking, I don't even curse at all, and that's something that my parents, that's how my parents raised me and my siblings. But that served me in such a way, in such a positive way, because I've been able to talk about issues and individuals and things that I disagree with in a respectful manner. And what happens with that is that those who disagree with you just can listen. Even if they listen to say I disagree, but they listen. Okay, the moment you start throwing bombs, all this, they shut down. And what happens to when you go to that point, right? You're not maximizing your efforts. You end up being, talking to the choir, just getting the same group of people, they only agree with you, and we're just swimming in the same waters instead of reaching new places, new people. So I think that's the thing. You have to start speaking up, and you have to speak from your heart, and the things that matters to you and ways that matters to you. But if anything, I saw Venezuela shatter to pieces because people, and that's something I have a video I need to post, but I talk about this, that I saw Venezuela shattered to pieces because people forgot. Or not that they forgot, they chose to hate each other just because they disagree with each other. Okay. And so I think we need to stop that trend, and the sooner the better. So that's what I tell to you or anybody who's listening now. We all have opinions. We all have strong opinions. Just share them. If your voice gonna reach people, if it comes from your heart. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's incredibly empowering. I like it a lot. I remember my grandma, when I was younger, asked me something to see like where I was at with my knowledge of, my government, and I remember I just telling her I didn't know. She asked me a really simple question, like, you know, who is our Secretary of State or something, and I was like, I don't know, Grandma. I was really
Mm-hmm.
young, and she was like, "This is your government. Like, you need to know this." And ever since, I've felt this kind of just this sense of self agency that I need to be my own educator on this topic, and that social media can't be the only place, but sometimes it feels daunting when it comes to knowing where to go and um, knowing where to get objective information, because all of it right now is seemingly um, manipulated, for some outcome, So this is incredibly helpful, and I hope anyone listening feels a little bit of a push to um, stand up for what you believe in, and
I can tell you
also follow
where
you.
I can tell you
Yes,
where we can all start about learning more.
please.
Reading the Constitution more, reading the papers written by our founding fathers, reviewing history, reviewing how they were able to accomplish so much and build this amazing nation, keeping hate aside. I mean, think of it. The founding fathers, the majority of patriots who fought, they were not even the majority of Americans. They were not. They were like 30%, 35%. There was a huge chunk who were neutrals. Can you imagine? It's like, I'm going to go out there and put my life in danger. And these people are like, well, we don't know. And they did it still. Okay. So I mean, if there's anything inspirational, it's learning about U.S. history. And me as an immigrant, somebody who was not born here, I've made my life mission to learn, constantly learn, and read more and understand more how these men were able to, think so deeply about human behavior and put it into context to create this nation. So there is your source, and there's no, how you call it, there's a lot of truth in there. So I think that is where we all need to start, and teaching more our children more about where we came, the good, the ugly, the bad, everything. But ultimately, this great nation, this is the best country in the world.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Yes. Well, I will do that. I
Yes.
pledge to do that. So thank
Good.
you. No, really, that's lovely. And this is, I feel like this is kind of turning a new leaf for the podcast a little bit, kind of just bringing an encouragement to defend our rights as Americans, um, without, of course, with representation of all of the other topics that
Of course.
some of these incredible guest speakers have come on to share, like yourself. Um, Absolutely. I think, the only thing we have not covered today so far is concealment and your journey as someone who exercises your right to bear arms and your trips to Walmart and your journey across states to go compete. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear, at what point did you start realizing that, or at what point did you start becoming curious about concealed carry and being a practitioner of that?
As soon as I was able to buy a firearm.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I bought three. I think, did I buy the three guns right away? I don't remember if I bought them three right away, but I got a full-size handgun, which was my for practice. I had my concealed carry gun and an AR-15, and this was about probably 2004. 2005 when I did that. And it was almost like I'm sitting and thinking, I would have never, ever imagined buying this in Venezuela. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I can do this. So to me was even not only, the fact that I got him, whatever, but it was a higher, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but I was like, wow, this is amazing. And this is an amazing country that I can do that. I can get a firearm to have at home when I go out and defend myself. So as soon as I could, I was like, yeah, I'm carrying, even though I was not even raised with that in a general sense with that culture, but I do understood the importance and the value of having that right to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have this newfound access, and uh, I can't imagine how that would feel. I know growing up, guns were all around me, and I can't
Cool.
imagine if well, just because of my uncles, and
Okay.
I always like ran with my male cousins. I would like
Nice.
sneak into the back of their pickup and go shooting with them on 4th of July, and they'd be like, "How did Sofia get in there?"
Cool.
Like, and I would go shooting with them. Was it safe? Did they teach me really anything? No, but it was customary. And by the time I wanted to buy a gun, it was just like go to Academy. They price match. Simple. And I know we take that for granted. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective that we do not get at people that are born and raised, especially born and raised in the culture of like guns are all around kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't mind, recently, what is your go-to concealed carry setup? I mean, I know I know you work with Walther, so I'm curious, is the PDPF your EDC, or is there anything recently?
Not yet. I mean, like I'm saying, I'm tiny. I am tiny. So
it's a big gun.
Yes.
It's a little bigger.
So I compete with it though. I compete with the PDPF series. And it all depends though. And I have to say, I'll take that back. It all depends. In the winter, I can carry that one. And I enjoy carrying my F series because that's what the gun I shoot the most. I feel very comfortable with it. In the summer, everything changes. And I know people say, oh, no, you can do it. I'm like, I'm tiny. You know what I mean? So I have the, which is discontinued, and I'm I have the new one, the 380. So I'm still testing it and trying it until I'm very, very comfortable with it. That's something I always tell
Yeah.
people, unless you're very, very comfortable with it, then do not carry. So I'm still training with
Right.
it, and hopefully that's going to be my final, my future concealed carry. But right now I shoot with the subcompact PPQ in 9mm. Yeah, and I do when I go, like right now when I was gonna go to Montana, which my trip got canceled. My goal was after the match go to the mountains and kind of hike. So I had a fanny pack that one I have with me, so that would allow me to, to faster movements and to explore more. But still, I have my, I decided to bring my carry gun, just in case, I'm gonna be out by myself in the mountains or whatever. So I was like, I need to have something to protect myself,
Absolutely.
that's when you realize, wow, that's awesome.
Oh, yes.
That I, with my choice to own firearms responsibly, I can also have the choice and say, hey, I want to explore, but I also recognize that I'm by myself and I need to get something. And I also carry appendix. I forgot the name of the holster, so if you I've had it for a
Yeah.
couple of years, I don't remember anymore.
Okay.
But
Is it the Filster Enigma?
I think so. It's the one that you wrap around the
Yeah.
leg.
Yes.
Okay,
That
that
is
one.
the Filster Enigma.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I
It's a
use
unique
that
name.
one. Yes. So I use that one too, when I can. I know some people are gonna say, no, don't do it. But I also do have a purse that I really like.
Okay.
Um, it's I got it from Primary Arms, and
Oh, nice. Okay.
FY Primary Arms is one of my sponsors. So
Yes.
I checked it out and I really like it. And I do that because I am a very girly woman. Like if you see
Yeah.
me on the streets, like I wear these high heels like this
Yeah.
when I
I
go
love
out.
it.
Yeah, when I go out in a
Yeah.
dress, super high heels, and
Yeah.
unbeknownst of everybody, I'll be packing. So
Of course. Yes.
packing with style. So
Absolutely.
sometimes, the ability doesn't make it to wear on me, and so I do wear. But
Right.
when I wear on a purse, I do wear it as a crossbody purse,
Okay.
not just a one shoulder purse. In a
Right.
crossbody, I know in a crossbody, for me, I have more retention of the purse. They will have to really drag me, to take the
Right.
purse from me.
Yes.
So that would be the only way I do carry in a purse.
Absolutely. Yes. And I used to be one of those people. I'd be like, purse carry is the devil, right? But once I matured a bit, and realized that, I mean, first of all, people are going to do it anyway. So might as well create safe and efficient, like wearing it in a crossbody orientation, um, ways for people to do that. And then I got to a place where I was like, okay, well, what do I do when I go to jiu-jitsu? Like, I'm not going to take my gun off and put it in a bag. And the gym is a really good example. I've heard of so many women getting attacked to and from the gym.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very vulnerable spot, just like any transitional spaces. And so I fanny pack carry to the gym
Right.
sometimes, depending. It's all so contextual, but
And and I
yeah.
have to say, sometimes, and obviously most of the time, is from men. Obviously, say no, you shouldn't do it,
Right.
and they push back all that stuff. And you have
Right.
to be realistic.
Right.
Some women,
Yes.
yeah, they like to wear their baggy clothes, and some women like me don't. Some
Right.
women like me, like I said, I'm very girly, and I like my very feminine clothes and girly clothes.
Yes.
And you're not gonna change. I'm not gonna change necessarily my whole outfit for my whole life just because.
Yeah, your like
But
style.
if I am
Yeah.
responsible, I know how to do it. I practice. Heck, that's much better. I think it's a better way of living life. Meaning, you have to live your life not always thinking that something horrible is going to happen, and right, you have to live your
Right.
life, but at the same time be prepared. And so it has to be a balance. And I think that's something that I know it's going to be a debate that probably will never end. but that's my
Absolutely.
but that's
Yes.
my take. I live
I
my
like it.
life and be prepared, but I live in my life happily.
Exactly. Oh yes. I love tight fitting clothing. It's what I feel most comfortable in. It's my style, and that's probably been the hardest concealment uh I guess adjustment for me
Yeah.
personally. But yes, I agree. And ultimately, I've always told people like really try to implement your style because if you feel like you're going outside of your style and who you are, you may not put the gun on because you may not want to
Yeah.
go that direction. So you then may not even wear the gun and then it
Right. And
defeats the
that's
whole purpose.
worse.
It's right. Yes, exactly. And heels are another topic. I love some heels. I'm 5'10". Um, but I still love my heels. I really do. Like I love how feminine I
Right.
feel. I love shoes so much. It's really bad, but um yeah, so all that to say, between those two things, purse carry shoes, I mean, you just have to kind of stay true to yourself, inform yourself. I love that. That's I hope someone listening heard that and maybe feels validated if you're on your concealment journey, which is never ending. Even when I get a new gun, I feel like I have to go back to square one
Right.
um, with like positioning and everything. So, yeah. And if you don't mind, I would love for you to share. You and Tatiana, and I believe Michelle also did a concealment series with Walther.
We did. That was with the release of the VDPF series. We
Yes.
did a series of videos. We had so much fun, and I learned a
Oh, I'm so
lot.
glad.
I learned a lot in the sense that, I carry conceal. I do a lot of things for, when for conceal and carry personally, but I don't teach it. You see what I mean? And
Yes,
so
yes.
and so through them, I was like, oh, I didn't think about this before. Now I can learn, I can do it. So it was a great series of videos that I recommend to everybody, especially ladies, because it was tailored to women. So all the
Absolutely.
husbands and boyfriends listening, and all the
Yes.
ladies, go to walther.com and look for those videos for sure.
Absolutely. Or go to the show notes. We will link it
Oh
below for you
yeah,
guys
right.
for instant
Awesome.
access. Yes. Yes,
Excellent.
absolutely. That was exciting to see. And also, I don't know if I have not told you this. We didn't have time. A Girl and a Gun was the Walther booth was packed.
Yeah.
But I actually competed with the PDPF because of you. Chris Long from Walther was like, "Hey, because I was like, hey, dude, like, what should I compete with?" And he was like, well, Gabby Franco competes with her PDPF,
Right.
so you should do that. And I have the 4 inch, and up until recently, I just switched over to the Walther steel frame compact.
Which I'm
Um,
gonna start shooting with that soon.
really, the compact or the full size?
The compact.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yay! Okay, I love it. Have you shot it
I
yet?
have, but I'm waiting to
Okay,
get I have tiny hands, so I'm waiting to
okay.
get. I'm gonna change the grip. I'm gonna put the
Mm-hmm.
thin grips, and I'm gonna change the trigger to that I was told that brings the trigger back. And so,
Very
this
nice.
is
Yes,
competition, and I love my F
yes,
series, but the weight and the gun is advantageous for us
yes.
in competition. So I'm definitely willing to give it a try for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, I'm so excited to hear how you like it. Do you think you'll review it on YouTube?
Oh yeah, as soon as I have it all set up and everything, for sure,
Mhm.
I will.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to that. I
Yeah.
look forward to that. I need to do that as well. I, like you mentioned earlier, I like to get several, I mean, several hundred, if not at least like 1,000 or so rounds through a gun before I review it. But um, that sometimes is like hard to do. I think so far I've shot 3 USPSA matches with it. So I'm getting to a point where it's starting to feel good. So
Okay.
I'm
Nice.
like fit my hand. I'm
Oh.
used to that polymer frame. So, oh, there's your cat for those of you
I
watching.
told you.
Yes, yeah, you did. You warned me. I love it. Yes. I always forget to say this in the beginning. The YouTube full length version is posted. If you're just listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I would have liked to know that, I will do my best to start announcing that at the beginning
Yeah.
of the episode. But we also release shorts done by Lisa Hamilton on our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at She Shield Pod. So maybe we can throw this cat clip in there. I love it. But oh my gosh, Gabby, we covered so much today. Is there
Yeah.
anything you feel like we didn't get to cover that you feel passionate about, you want to just throw out there?
Well, I have my shooting manual if people want to learn. I have a few projects in mind. I don't know if I should say them or not yet, but
Okay. Up
I
to
want
you.
to. So I have a seminar called "The Mental Dynamics of Target Shooting." So I'm working in ways so I can offer it online, so more people can take that seminar. And I think this is a very interesting. Well, the title says it all. It's about how we process information and the mental
Mhm.
aspect of shooting. How can we improve by understanding what's happening? I know it sounds like weird to say it that way, but mostly it's about perspective. And so I talk about all that stuff. So hopefully soon, before I start my master's, probably not, but soon I
Yes.
will. Soon I will have that done, and also my book is troubleshooting, mastering your pistol marksmanship. Is in Amazon. It's more like a shooting manual, especially for new shooters. If you are new to shooting or you haven't shot for a long time and you need a refreshment about the techniques in a very concise, simple, direct to the point way, then definitely that's the book for you if you're interested. But other than that, I mean, like I said, I can talk to you for hours upon hours, so we can take it maybe for a
Yes.
second time. What do you think, Tay?
Absolutely. Yes. And I will link all of your books below if you want more out of Gabby before we get part 2 and 3 going. Definitely check out her books. And yes, I want you to come back. I know I'm going to listen to this later and kick myself for not going into something deeper. I always do that after an episode. I'm like, why didn't I ask this? So it's always fun to come back later and feel a little bit more to go into certain topics deeper, and then also to have you back for a Spanish episode. It would be an honor to have you on for that.
Of course.
Maybe even if it's just a repeat of this episode. So if you're listening and that is something that interests you, or you know anyone that could benefit from that, we're going to do it anyway. But let us know.
Yeah.
Shoot an email to sheshieldpod@gmail.com. Maybe leave a comment DM somewhere on the She Shield page. I mentioned earlier on when I started my page, I mentioned my Spanish speaking abilities, which were not perfect, but they were, there. And I got a few DMs saying, like, people were so excited for me to bring that to my page. And I feel bad. I've never done that. So, this would be a great way to introduce that.
Yeah.
So, Gabby, thank you so much for your time
Of
today. I would
course.
love, if you don't mind, if you have anything you would like to leave the listeners with. This is something I do at the end of every episode. Anything you want to say, from like an Albert Einstein quote to anything you just want them to take with them.
Oh my God, you caught me off guard. I know there's a quote
I know.
I know there's a quote from Winston Churchill that I always
Oh,
loved. And for some reason I can't bring up to me, but it was something like, no, I don't know. I don't remember, but what I'm gonna say, what I would say in general is that enjoy life. Life is, it's often we say life is short, but life is good when you're breathing. Enjoy it as much as you can, and don't worry about if your goals don't come right away. Like it took me about 20 years and 3 attempts to get my bachelor's. And that gave me perspective about goals. That if you don't if you don't get them right away, that doesn't mean that you have to abandon them. And time, it's perfect. And God's time is perfect. So just keep pushing and keep enjoying life.
Absolutely. I love that. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I know I've said that a lot this episode. I don't think I've done that in a while, but thank you so much for all of that. And it ties it back perfectly to how this episode started. So I'm so excited for this to air. It should go up in 2 weeks from now. So
Okay.
how exciting.
Awesome.
That should just be on the brink of July 1st, like the beginning of
perfect.
July. So
love it.
Yes, perfect. Yes. For those of you listening, if you would like to go check out Gabby's socials, I will link that below as well. I am so excited that we finally got to do this.
Yes.
And of course, it's always so fun to meet guest speakers in person before we start an episode. That point of contact is so nice. And it was so fun to experience that with you. I know we didn't get to talk much, but just being in the booth with you and being there representing Walther, because I love what they're doing. And it was so cool to see how many people were excited to try the PDPF and the new steel frame.
Yes.
So it was a very unique experience.
Awesome.
Kind of signing off here. Just want to, I think I've said a few things about our YouTube, our shorts, but if you or anyone you know is a firearms owner experiencing a crisis, look into holdmyguns.org. They are an organization that will connect you with a local gun shop or FFL to store your firearm for you. The link to access their website and to find a storage location partner is available in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. Again, don't forget to leave a review if you can. In the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Attention all knife enthusiasts. Today's episode is sponsored by the one and only Cold Steel Knives. For over 3 decades, Cold Steel has been leading the way in the knife industry, dedicated to creating the world's strongest and sharpest blades. They've pioneered countless innovations that have become industry hallmarks of quality and sophistication. From their revolutionary checked Kraton handles to the iconic Tonto point blade systems, Cold Steel's progressive accomplishments have set new standards in the field. Their trademark triad locking mechanism remains unrivaled by any of their competitors, proving its unbeatable performance time and time again. Their impressive lineup goes beyond just knives. They offer swords, tomahawks, machetes, cutlery, and a wide range of tools for everyday carry. Trusted by military, law enforcement, emergency services, self-defense professionals, and martial arts practitioners, Cold Steel is renowned for quality, strength, reliability, and dependability. Where strength, safety, and performance come together for over 3 decades and counting, use code SHESHIELD at checkout, that's SHESHIELD, to save and to support the pod.